Anyway, I'm John Harrison. I'm actually the social science collections coordinator for the library. But ever since I came in the middle 80s, I have always done sessions for faculty, staff, and students on grants and fellowships and scholarships and financial aid. And until this day, they always ask me to participate in a lot of the sessions, so that's why I'm here today. Since I work in the library, if you're interested in finding the information that I like to share, what you would do is you would go to the library homepage. I'm going to click on the library homepage. This is kind of buried. If you scroll over the resources and go down to research guides, click on by subject, and then scroll down here to where it says grants and scholarships. Click on that link, then you can find this page. Another way, if you want to jot down the URL for this, it's liveguides.live.msu.edu/grants. Or you can send me an email and I'll be glad to send it to you because I'm very vain and I'm always willing to share. I have a number of things that I want to point out here. Even before I came in 1985, the MSU had a relationship with the Foundation Center in New York City. We were asked to take over responsibility for the relationship, and so the library has done it ever since. We used to be called a Cooperating Collections, but about a year or two ago, they decided to change the terminology, so now we're a Funding Information Network partner. We're one of about 400 that are scattered across the United States, and also they're starting to have some in other countries, like in Africa and other places. If you have friends and acquaintances that are looking for funding, down here at the bottom, you can click on this link and type in your zip code, and it will identify about 15 or so Funding Information Network partners that are within several hundred miles of your location. Anyway, because of our relationship with the Foundation Center, I always start off under this first tab by showing you some of the many resources that we have available because of our relationship. For example, we do provide access to the Foundation Directory online professional database. You can only access this database here in the library on hardwired computers. The database it's now up to about 140,000 different funders. It started off just covering private foundations long ago, but it has expanded greatly. Let me see if it'll link on this stand right here. This is kind of interesting though. Based on our IP address, it's giving funding trends for the state of Michigan. And even though Tim said funding for from private foundations is going up on a here they're kind of projecting that overall funding in Michigan is going down. So that's kind of, you can also play around with this. You can change it to various subject areas and see what the patterns are and so forth. But on this page, I wanted to click on, most people come in and click on search grant makers, and it gives you this template. Why I want to open it up is just to show you the types of grant makers. If I click on that, if you wanted to, you could designate the type of grant maker. My experience has been most people don't really care as long as they can find somebody that's willing to fund them. But if you look through this list, you'll see that the database now covers about 96,000 independent or private foundations, covers over 2,000 community foundations, over 3,000 company-sponsored foundations, over 1,800 corporate giving programs. Some companies prefer to give money from their annual profits. I don't know if any of you have ever gone shopping in Meijer, but they don't have a separate corporate foundation. They just give money for local projects out of their profits. There's some other examples on here. Tim mentioned some of them. The operating foundation, over 5,000 are listed. They include public charities because public charities sometimes will also pay people to do research for them or collaborate with people on special projects. And they just started this thing called non-governmental organization. There's only 17 in there. And there's also one called governmentally linked foundation. So they're slowly expanding. However, if you'll notice, the Foundation Directory Online Professional Database does not cover government agencies. You'll have to go elsewhere for that. And we do have a lot of other tools. Now, if you're interested in searching this, I'll just want to quickly show you. I don't want to give you a detailed one. If you click on fields of interest, they provide you with an extremely long alphabetical list of all the different categories that you can choose. One nice thing about each one is that they give you how many funders are associated with each of those. This is just the A list. If you notice up at the top, you can choose anything from A to Z. If you're into medicine or health, you can click on H. You see health, they have over 41,000 funders, but quite often when you get into those, then they break it down into subcategories as well. Remember that when you're searching. If you want to, there's also another field you can use called support strategy. If you click on that, you can find all kinds of things that would be of relevance to the academic community. Research seems to be a magic word. Everybody's always looking for money to fund their research projects. Research funding is a category. You'll see other things like program development, scholarships, fellowships, all kinds of things in here. This database is not focused on academics, though. It covers the whole world of nonprofits. So there's a lot of other topics that you might want to play around with. As Tim mentioned, the national grant makers like to see projects that have national or international significance. However, if you're working on a project that has more local significance, you might want to run whatever you've chosen against either the grant makers that are located in the state of Michigan or that have a geographic focus of Michigan. Some of the companies that operate in Michigan, their corporate headquarters may be elsewhere in the state. In other cases, there might be wealthy individuals who have sold their company or have decided to move south because they're tired of shoveling snow from their driveway, and so, but they still remember where they made a lot of their money, so they do send money back to Michigan. So you can check those possibilities out. Again, just a very brief overview. I'm not going to really do, you can put in the name of a specific funder. Why don't I do that just to show you the type of entry you get? I'll type in a very well-known one, the Kellogg Foundation, and I'm going to type, I happen to know that Michigan will work. I could have just typed MI. Under geographic focus, if I clicked on the view index, in addition to listing countries of the world, states, it also allows you to choose national, international, or national/international, which covers everything. So, that's a possibility as well. But anyway, I'm looking for the Kellogg Foundation in Michigan. I'm just going to do a real quick search and see it finds everything that has the word Kellogg. Obviously, you'd want to start out with the W.K. Kellogg Foundation that has $8 trillion worth of assets and which gives away almost $300 million a year. All the private foundations are required by U.S. law to give away 5% of their assets every year to nonprofit organizations, activities, and so forth, or else they have to pay taxes on those funds. That's what encourages them to share money. Anyway, if I click on this, I just want to show you what it looks like. This is what a sample record looks like. It gives you address information. Buried within it, if it is a private foundation, you can actually click on their IRS returns, which list every grant they gave during that IRS fiscal year. This is a table of contents. You can either click on that or you can just roll down. Gives you a little bit of background about the funders, limitations, purpose and activities, areas that they like to give funding in. These are all the categories that were assigned to the particular funder. Notice you can also search by population group. So if you're doing research that touches on the low income and poor people or indigenous people and so forth, you can make a choice that way and narrow down your results to do it accordingly. If you do a search, this is a bad one because it's only one. You can email the records to yourself. So if you come into the library and you don't have a lot of time, everyone you find, you can email the records to yourself and you know, start your own little digital collection of funding sources that way. Another possibility is if you do find a particular funder, you can click on geographic giving. I know Tim showed a map of where, you know, most of the foundation funding is, but if you click on this, it tells you where most of the money from each individual funder is going. Kind of, you know, a nice visual presentation that way. You know, again, if you want to see where they give, you know, you can click on that to see the subject categories. You can see the average amounts they give out and so forth. And any of this information you can save if you want to. Okay. In addition to the Foundation Directory Online Professional, we do have files. If you want to see how they organize all their subject terms or how they arrange population terms, you can go through these links. I always throw those in because I'm a librarian and like to share as much information as possible. And if you ever contact me and want to sit down one-on-one, I can go through and show you all this stuff. There is another database called Foundation Grants to Individuals. Lots of times when people are looking for funding for themselves, maybe they're a musician, you know, over in the College of Music or whatever, or, you know, if they're looking for a scholarship or a fellowship, you can click on that and it will only pull up the money that's available to individuals from the database. Another one that I'd like to show you is the map of cross-border giving. Down at the bottom of this page, there's a link to it called Map of Cross-Border Giving. Oh, dang it. Let's get started. Eventually, a map of the world will show. So if you're from another part of the world, if you click on your country like China, although if you're visually challenged or something like that, you can just go down in alphabetical order and click on a country. For example, let me pick a smaller one, Costa Rica. So I'm going to click on Costa Rica and it will list some of the major funders that have given money to that particular country over the last time period. To see the time periods 2003 through 2014. Well, you can adjust that. You can say, I only want to see certain years by grant maker. You can choose your area of interest. Like if you like to do environmental research, you might choose environment or health or social science or science. It will redo the list and just list the funders that gave the money. And if you actually click on the funders, it will tell you who in the country received the grant. Tim mentioned that a lot of the national and international ones, you know, are tending to fund things in other parts of the world. This way you can actually see some of the players in those countries and maybe investigate whether you can make some connections with them and maybe you can collaborate on projects. Okay, the next thing on the list, I listed a lot of other things that are available that are related to the Foundation Center. They do have a portal called GrantSpace, probably of more interest to nonprofit organizations, but if you're doing work in areas like health or education, you can click on that and they pull together all kinds of resources ranging from podcasts to videos to FAQs, standard questions that people ask, how to go about getting money and so forth. Some of you may be familiar that the Foundation Center does a philanthropy news digest where they regularly post some of the major philanthropical developments around the country, usually at the national level. They also post some of the larger requests for proposals, again, usually with national significance. If you're a foreign student or foreign visitor, you might want to click on International Visitor Portal and you'll find even more information there. We are related to the Foundation Center, and one of the things that we do, we have to share information about what we provide. So I've got a link here to our Grants and Related Resources blog. This is one of the blogs that I maintain. The Vice President's Office for Research and Graduate Studies managed to recruit me to post things to Spartan Ideas, but this is probably because I had already been doing a lot of blogs. But if you go in here, you can just find the various things that I discover on a daily or weekly basis, like here's a list of human rights funders, What I want to show you, though, is that I regularly list the contents of some online newsletters. For example, once a month, I post research development and grant writing news. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. All of you have access to this. Like in the most recent September 15th issue, there's an introduction to NOAA for new faculty, looking for humanities funding, the myth of insider grants information, all kinds of stuff. The other thing I wanted to show you is that they also include a lot of current information or current awareness announcements. Most of these come from federal agencies. So this is yet another place that you can keep track of all of these things. And if you see one that looks of interest to you, you can go ahead and click on it. If you try to access it from off campus, like a lot of our subscription resources, you would just need to remember your MSU ID and password, and you would be able to open that up. Some of the other things that I always like to do in grant sessions, both Doug and Tim mentioned a lot of the different agencies on campus that are available to help you. I've got a list of a lot of them, like the Vice President's Office for Research and Graduate Studies. Here's a link to the same internal grants that Doug told you about, to the institution limited competitions that his office. Here's a link to research facilitation and dissemination that puts together these workshops, and it mentions a lot of the stuff that they do. Within that, there's a link to all of the College of Research Deans. Obviously, if you're a faculty member, it behooves you to get in touch with your research people within your departments, and they can give you, not only can they give you leads on funders, but they can tell you on the process of how to write proposals, and who knows, they may even have files of past grants that have been written by people in the department that they can share with you, and so forth. Research facilitation and dissemination also has a wonderful list of research and creative activity support contacts. I think they've got a stack of them on the table back there if you want a paper copy to take with you, but it's also available online. In many cases, you might have to contact the Office of Sponsored Programs. There's a link there. But anyway, when I did that, Lucille Fallon did a number of those sessions. I've got a link to her place, and remember that the guide that she gave. Here's the grant proposal planning guide with a lot of those same questions. At that time, she said, well, I didn't have it on the web, but I was free to list it if I wanted to, so I listed it there. Some of the other things that I want to show you, this researching potential funders, this is another list that I provide that lists all of the databases that are available, and maybe that's why you're still here after all this time. Again, there's a link to the Foundation Directory Online Professional and so forth. We do have a smaller database called Grant Select. It's heavily focused on academic opportunities. You may want to give it a try. The library pays a lot of money every year to help support research and all the things that you're interested in exploring on campus. Do any of you still get paper copies of the Chronicle of Higher Education? The one nice thing about that is, since we subscribe to it, I'm going to click on Chronicle of Philanthropy here. Some of you may never heard of the Chronicle of Philanthropy. You're more used to the Chronicle of Higher Education, but here it says that Zuckerberg Initiatives pledges $3 billion for science research. So if you're responsible for helping people on campus get money for science, that might be a possibility that you'd want to investigate. But what I want to show you, in addition to all the articles, even the ones that have the little lock, which is locked, if you click on those will open for you because we paid for all of you to have access on campus. Notice here that there is a grants icon, label up here. If you click on that, again, it gives you a lot of articles related to grants, and it says Get Started on GrantStation. If you click on GrantStation, it gives you this page, which kind of like the Foundation Directory Online Professional, looks like a big commercial or whatever. It may put you off. But if you click over here under Search on U.S. Grants, you see that you can get access to the U.S. Charitable Giving Database. You can do searches that way. They also have a separate file for federal grants and loans. Again, if you click on that, It will list lots of, day-by-day listings, looks like grants type gov information that you can find on a lot of other MSU sites. Let's close that one. Okay, let me go back. My favorite, they also have one for state grants and loans. So if you're interested for state funding, you can click on Michigan and it will have links to the major state agencies that provide funding, as well as some other organizations that do that. Again, my favorite though is Grant Station Insider. And so starting 2 weeks ago, I would open up the latest Grant Station Insider and pick out some of the particular funding possibilities that they mentioned. I started listing those in my grants and related resources blog with a line at the bottom saying you now have access to Grant Station via the Chronicle of Philanthropy. They also have stuff on international. Again, there's an international charitable giving database that you can play around with. They also have a similar thing called International Insider, where they highlight a lot of the different programs that are possibilities that are available. I don't know if you're doing research in Canada, but we've got they've got a Canadian grant section. They also have sections on how to put together proposals, so that might be of interest to you as well. Again, I just wanted to mention to you, since we only started subscribing to the Chronicle of Philanthropy about 3 weeks ago, another source that you can get that kind of information from. Okay, now going down through here, I have, some of the departments on campus use Proposal Central. I think a lot of the medical schools use Proposal Central because it has information about a lot of other organizations that give out funding. You can also fill out grant requests and submit them electronically through Proposal Central. You have to register those. That's a drawback to me, but it is listed there. SciVal funding. Tim or Doug, one of them mentioned SciVal funding. This is the database that the Vice President's Office for Research and Graduate Studies pays, so all the faculty and all the students and all the staff on campus can search to find academic funding sources. Again, we're very thankful that the Vice President's Office paid for that, so that's one thing that we don't have to pay for in the library, but they do. Down below here are some of the newsletters that we provide. Over on the left, if you're interested in federal funding, state of funding, all of these other things, I do have links to all kinds of resources on that. If you're interested in collaborating with people on projects, there's links to MSU Scholars, to the MSU Experts Directory. Those are just some of the other things that are available. If you haven't ever written proposals before, click on proposal writing. I've listed a variety of sources that we have. Some of these are online, some of them are print. The print ones you check out, the online ones you can just click on. Here's one called New Faculty Guide to Competing for Research Funding. So if you click on that, it will open it up and you can read all of it that way. Over on the left, there's other resources that might be of help to you. I have collections of websites that have all kinds of information about academic fundraising. Here are tutorials from the Foundation Center. I know that Tim and Doug don't like to talk about crowdfunding, but I have discovered in viewing things that sometimes when the established channels fail, some people turn to crowdfunding. Here's something I saw in the paper about a Michigan Tech University faculty member. He was doing a project with a local nonprofit organization, so he used crowdfunding to raise the money to fund the project. Science, University of Michigan medical faculty member used crowdfunding to help raise money. And here's some other examples from the science area as well as in the arts and other areas. So if you're interested and have heard about crowdfunding, you can try that. And affinity groups, Tim mentioned affinity groups, so they're all listed here, plus a lot more. So if you want to look through those, there's links to them. You can see who the groups are and maybe get an idea of the types of things that they like to follow. Also, forever and ever, I've had a Grants for Individuals page. It always starts out with the same databases that I told you about. But if you go down here and click on MSU Libraries, you can see things like early career funding, I kind of amended it because I said early and mid-career opportunities. Every year I hear my fellows talk about all the opportunities. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put all those together so people can find them easily online all the time. So if you go through here, you can see lots of those or all of those listed here in case you want to explore the ones that they recommended to you. Of course, if you want to explore a little bit further, there's a section here for postdoctorate funding. It's also broken out by population groups and by subject. So if you see a subject like engineering or environmental studies, click on it and you can see some of the many resources that we have.